I win a lot of games of Commander, definitely far more than I should. Because of this, I've decided to leak all my secret tech so that you too can win more games and create more fun in the process. I think it's important to mention that I don't think I win because of some tyrannical win at all costs mentality. I care about the table having fun and about winning not coming at the cost of that. I do, however, have a very specific set of skills, and soon, so will you. So, you should learn to sell. Sales is a misunderstood dirty word in the world. When I say sell, I don't mean this guy. At its core, sales is an understanding of the wants and needs of another and being able to communicate the value that you can offer that aligns with those wants. Knowing how to present an idea or sell your point and knowing how to communicate that well will both increase the chance of whatever you want to happen and you'll have more fun doing it. I can also guarantee that it will create more fun for your opponents. Whilst we don't have time for a full sales masterclass from me, the key here is empathy, putting yourself in your opponent's shoes and thinking about the game from their perspective. What are they trying to do? And how can what you do or offer help them achieve that? If you can do that, you'll be able to start seeing alignment with your own plays and sell how what you're doing really helps them. This means they're more likely to be on your side and will be less likely to disrupt you. If, however, they're not being cooperative, you can always practice the art of the bluff. Perception is reality, and the possibility or threat of what your opponent thinks can or will happen is something to use to your advantage. Seeing an opponent with 2 untapped blue mana right before you cast a big spell will tell you all that you need to know about the threat of possibility. It's learning to proactively use that information, or threat, that will make you a political force to be reckoned with. What if your entire deck was in your hand at all times? How would that change how you talk about what's possible? As an example, if you don't have a great play to make on your turn, why not just leave that mana untapped and let the table assume why you've done that? And if they do decide to target you, a little reactive verbal threat, or bluff, never hurts anyone. At the very worst, it's going to make them second guess themselves, and quite often, they'll change their plans because of the perceived threat. And best of all, sometimes you will actually be able to back up those threats, meaning your friends can't ever be sure whether to take the risk or not. From finessing the table with the potential of a threat to very real threats. Having a big old gun you can put down on the table is a great way to ensure people don't touch your things or mess with your plans. Be that a royal assassin to make sure that no one attacks you or just thinks twice about attacking at all, to a spore frog that can save yourself or facilitate the most masterful political debates, through to a massive commander that threatens to end someone's game if they look at you funny. Building these into your deck, and more importantly, using them properly, means you'll often be the last to get hit. Just be careful about going from the defensive to the offensive with these pieces. And that's important because you should be trying to fly under the radar. Don't draw attention to yourself, pick unnecessary fights, or touch your opponent's stuff unless you really need to. Realize that in dealing with a perceived problem, you're trading a valuable resource in the process. It's best to learn to assess when something is actually a threat, and only deal with things when you absolutely have to. More often than not, someone else in the pod can and will be far more trigger happy than you, and that's something that you should use. Alternatively, deal with things if trading your invisibility cloak helps you get something of equal value, like setting up an alliance or currying favor with the rest of the table. I see people destroying perfectly non scary things on sight, or countering a mana rock, only to be down a piece of removal or protection that they'll definitely need later. And they've made an enemy over something minor in the process. Don't be trigger happy, because if you live by the gun, you die by the gun. Speaking of guns, don't be the arch enemy. Now, I know some of you want to be the powerful arch enemy every game, but know that it's costing you wins. A cute little guy is far less likely to be hunted than a lion because it's far less of a threat. Know that in playing big scary cards and playing into being a scary threat, but people will deal with you accordingly. It's a bit like being a high school bully. You're going to be top of the food chain for a short period of time and then fall off and fade into obscurity the moment that that scrawny kid that secretly does MMA stands up to you. I see people getting very distracted during Commander games, chatting about random things not related to the game, or glued to their phones, or simply just daydreaming. They barely notice what's happening on someone else's turn unless it targets them, which means they're not engaged for 75% of the game. Then, when it gets to their turn, they have to reboot their brain and assess the entire board state from scratch. They then take long to fumble through their turn and go back into standby mode. Don't live life at sorcery speed. It limits the opportunity for plays, politics, banter, and most importantly, fun. Instead, think of a game of Commander like it was a game of poker. If it were, you'd be watching and listening to each player like a hawk, looking for tells and studying them to see if their expressions give away what they're thinking or planning. Commander is no different, and playing the people, not simply the cards, is something that will reward you greatly. Speaking of rewards, reward yourself by not focusing on winning. Now, I know that sounds a bit strange because this is a video about how to win more, but hear me out. Many people want to win so badly that when things don't go their way, they get frustrated, upset, or at worst, angry. This lessens both their and the table's enjoyment of the game, and these emotions make one less likely to think clearly or have fun. The focus should be on the journey, not the destination, because ultimately you can't control the outcome. You can only control yourself. Plus, if you're having fun, you're more likely to be fun to be around, and you're probably less likely to be killed off early because people don't enjoy your presence. A commander win should be like finding $50 on the street at the end of a good night out with your friends. You spent time with people you like, you made some memories, and hey, what a bonus! You found $50. You couldn't have planned or forced that to happen, but it's cool that it did. What you can control, though, is your own deck. This is a big one, but build better decks. It's a topic that definitely requires its own video, which fortunately I've made and you should go and watch. It's also my most popular video to date. But for now, simply put, if your deck isn't optimized for winning, you're not going to win. You need to look at your win conditions and how reliably your deck can make them happen. Additionally, chase deck synergy over individual card strength. This will result in better, more enjoyable decks to pilot, and people will perceive your deck as less of a threat, because each card you play doesn't set off alarm bells. You can still play powerful, well-known cards, but know that every time you do, you're trading a piece of your invisibility cloak. In order to win the game, you also need to know how to stop your opponents from winning the game. And to do that, you need to know roughly how they plan to win and what their decks are trying to do. If you're in a playgroup that you know, great, and you should know this already. If you don't, or if you're at a new table with new people, it should be perfectly acceptable to ask as part of the pre-game chat roughly what someone's deck is trying to do and how they are likely to win. Armed with this information, you'll be able to assess how far along the path to winning they are on any given turn. From big combat wins to combos, draining the table's life, knowing their win condition will tell you how likely they are to do it imminently and whether you should try to stop them. Speaking of timing, when you're building up to attempt to win, it's important to pick the optimal timing. There are a few factors to consider, but you likely want to delay your attempt to win until right before your opponents do. Thinking about what your opponents want to do and paying attention to how close they are to do that is key, so that you can beat them to the finish line. Another great time to attempt to win is right after the table has had a big fight and depleted their resources. Resources mean the number of cards in their hand and the likelihood it's counter magic or removal to stop you, as well as the mana available to cast it. At best, they're going to be tapped out and you're going to be the mayor of Victory Town, but at worst, you can guess how they may attempt to rain on your parade. Winning in Commander is affected by so many things, least of which is expensive, powerful cardboard. Thinking that it is a trap that I see many people falling into, a trap that results in a lust for power and an arms race in playgroups that no one enjoys. least of all, the person spending the money. A key thing I'd like you to take away from this video is that if you found a playgroup of people that you like who view Commander in a similar way to you, then you've already won. Because that's what Commander is all about. And all of this winning is just a huge bonus. But winning against people that you genuinely like is even sweeter. So hopefully you have found this useful. No doubt my days of winning are over, as my playgroup is going to end my career after learning all my trade secrets. But hopefully you can do me proud and continue on my winning ways. If you've got any secret tech of your own, or perhaps you use some of this information to great effect and you have a story to share, let's hear it in the comments. And thanks for watching.